Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime, parked on a narrow cliff road where the Atlantic keeps slamming the rocks like it's got a personal grudge. You kill the engine, and the silence that rushes in feels thicker than the fog, thick enough to chew. Salt stings your lips before you even open the door. Somewhere below, the lighthouse beam slices through the murk every 7 seconds, slow as a heartbeat you don't want to match. You'll wish you never followed that light. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Then drop your current local time in the comments, plus one creepy thing in your room right now. I'm reading every single one while the gulls scream overhead. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step out of the SUV, boots crunching on gravel that smells like low tide and rust. Your best friend, Jonah, is already unloading gear, headlamp, thermos, that ridiculous camo onesie he swears brings luck. Beside him, Mara flicks her lighter open and shut, the flame painting her cheekbones orange every time. She grew up 2 towns over, heard the stories from fishermen who won't sail past this point after dusk. She promised you the Quadshade was real, promised it the way kids promise monsters under the bed are just socks. The 4th member of your little midnight club waits by the rusted gate. Ellis, your guide for the night. He's all sunburned grin and windbreaker, clipboard tucked under one arm like he's leading a nature hike, instead of trespassing into a decommissioned lighthouse everyone swears is cursed. Real-world fact, by the way, lighthouses kill more keepers with loneliness than storms ever did. Google the statistics. They're brutal. Ellis waves you over. Gate's technically locked, he says, producing a key that looks older than the Republic. But the Coast Guard stopped caring in '89. Budget cuts. He swings it open with a shriek of hinges that echoes down the cliff. Mara winces. Jonah laughs too loud. You pretend your stomach doesn't flip. Inside the fence, the path is a strip of broken concrete swallowed by dune grass. Fog rolls in off the water, tasting of iron and gull droppings. Every 7th second the beam sweeps overhead, turning the mist into a slow-motion strobe. You catch glimpses, the tower itself, white paint flaking like dead skin. Keeper's cottage sagging to the left. A cluster of outbuildings that once stored oil, now just store shadows. Ellis starts the spiel the moment your boots hit the threshold. The Quadshade isn't a ghost, he says, voice pitched low like he's afraid the building will overhear. It's biological. Needs sodium the way we need oxygen. That's why it stays coastal. Salt in the air, salt in the blood of anything dumb enough to wander close. He gestures toward the cottage. Keeper's logs from the 40s mention 4 figures on the gallery every full moon. Always 4. Never 3, never 5. Sailors called it the family portrait. Jonah snorts. So we're ghost hunting a salt vampire that cosplays as a nuclear family? Pretty much, Ellis says, unfazed. Except it's shy. Mimics what it thinks you expect to see. Lost loved ones, missing kids, whatever keeps you staring long enough for the tide to turn. You roll your eyes, but the fog chooses that moment to part just enough for the beam to hit the tower windows. For a heartbeat, you swear 4 silhouettes stand on the lantern deck. Too tall, too short, perfectly still. Then the light moves on, and there's nothing but cracked glass. Mara elbows you. Tell me you saw that. Lens flare, you mutter. But your pulse is already sinking with the rotation. 7 seconds, 7 seconds. Ellis leads you through the cottage first. Inside smells like low tide left in a gym bag. Wallpaper peels and long yellow tongues. A child's rocking horse sits in the corner, one eye missing, mane matted with something darker than dust. Real-world fact, rocking horses were originally built to teach Victorian kids balance for horseback riding. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a whole subreddit dedicated to photos of abandoned toys that look like they're watching you. This one would fit right in. Ellis points to scuff marks on the floorboards, for parallel grooves, spaced like adult footprints, but too wide, too deep. It drags itself when it's conserving energy, he whispers. Saves the upright act for when it wants to be seen. Jonah kneels, runs a finger through the grooves. Could be skateboards. Skateboards that bleed brine. Ellis counters. He flicks his flashlight toward the kitchen. A rusted fridge door hangs open. Inside, jars of gray sludge that might once have been pickles. It raids pantries for salt. Pickles, cured meat, straight seawater if it's desperate. You snap a photo. The flash bounces off something wet on the counter. 4 perfect handprints, child-sized, glistening. Mara leans in. That's fresh. Fog condensation. You say, but your voice cracks like a preteen's. Up the spiral stairs to the service room. Iron steps groan under your weight. The air turns colder with every turn, carrying a sound you can't place. Soft, rhythmic, almost like wings. Ellis pauses halfway. Experts still argue whether the birds follow it or it follows the birds. Red-billed gulls, specifically. They pick parasites off its carapace the way oxpeckers clean rhinos. Symbiosis. You reach the lens room. The great Fresnel lens is gone, stolen decades ago, leaving a circular scar in the floor. Moonlight spills through the empty frame, painting the walls in silver bars. Ellis kills his flashlight. Best viewed in the dark, he says. Eyes adjust. You'll see movement before shape. Jonah sets up his GoPro on a cracked windowsill. Mara unzips her jacket, revealing a t-shirt that reads "I survived the Quadshade." Spoiler, she hasn't. Yet. You lean out the lantern deck railing. Wind whips your hair into your mouth, tasting of pennies. Below, the beam sweeps the rocks again. Nothing. Then, 4 shapes, midway down the exterior stairs. 2 adults, 2 kids, all in pale raincoats the color of bone. They stand shoulder to shoulder, facing the sea. The beam passes, they're gone. Wind playing tricks, Jonas says, but he's already zooming the camera. Ellis checks his watch. Tide's turning. We camp in the cottage tonight. It'll come closer once the moon's high. You descend, legs jelly. The cottage feels smaller now, walls breathing. You pitch tents in what used to be the living room. 3 domes glowing soft blue from phone screens. Ellis takes the porch, claims he needs to monitor gull activity. Translation, he's giving you privacy to freak out. Mara brews terrible instant coffee. Jonah scrolls through footage, pausing every 7 seconds. Lens flare my ass, he mutters. Frame 7 minutes and 14 seconds. 4 silhouettes, crisp as paper cutouts. Frame 7 minutes and 21 seconds, empty stares. You laugh it off, but the laugh comes out hollow. Outside, gulls start screaming like alarms. The coffee tastes like boiled pennies and regret, but you drink it anyway, because your hands need something to do besides shake. Jonah's GoPro battery dies with a pathetic beep, plunging the cottage into phone glow and moonlight. Mara sits cross-legged on her sleeping bag, earbuds in, pretending to watch a true crime doc, while actually recording ambient audio for the vibes. Ellis is still outside. You hear his boots crunching gravel in slow, deliberate circles. You unzip your tent flap just enough to peek. The fog has thickened into something you could scoop with a spoon. Every 7th second the beam sweeps the yard, turning mist into milk, then darkness again. 7 seconds of visibility, 7 seconds of blindness. Your new heartbeat. Real-world fact. The human eye takes about 30 minutes to fully dark adapt. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a 4chan green text about a guy who stared at a lighthouse beam too long and swore the light started staring back. Experts still argue whether that's retinal burn or something worse. Jonah crawls over, whispers, "Check this." He tilts his phone. A still from the lens room. 4 pale raincoats on the stairs. But zoom in. The father's hand has 6 fingers, each joint bending wrong. The mother's smile is too wide, like her cheeks unzipped. The kids? Their eyes reflect the flash wrong, flat white, no pupils. Deep fake, you say? The word tastes like a lie. Mara pulls an earbud. Ellis said it mimics what you expect. What do you expect exactly? You don't answer. Because what you expect is your little sister, age 8, the summer she drowned. You never told them that. Ellis's silhouette appears in the doorway. Gull counts up to 23, he says. Never seen that many in one place. They're waiting for breakfast. Breakfast being us. Jonah jokes. Nobody laughs. Ellis kneels, unrolls a laminated map across the floorboards. Red lines spiderweb from the tower to the cottage to the oil shed. It patrols these paths. Conserves energy. When the gulls cluster, it's close. He taps the oil shed. Chlorine tanks in there. Old lens cleaning solution. It drinks the runoff like Gatorade. Mara wrinkles her nose. So we're sleeping next to a giant spider that mainlines bleach. Arachnid adjacent, Ellis corrects. 8 legs, but the front 4 fold into torsos. The back 4 stay low, drag the abdomen. Looks like a family from a distance. Up close, he trails off. You all decide to explore the oil shed anyway, because of course you do. Thrill Seekers Anonymous. The shed door hangs by one hinge. Inside, moonlight stripes the concrete through slatted walls. Rusted drums line the perimeter, labels peeled to ghosts. The air smells like swimming pools and low tide. Ellis flicks on a headlamp. The beam catches a pile of gull feathers matted with something sticky. Jonah whistles. That's a lot of birds. Parasite buffet, Ellis says. It rolls in the feathers. Gulls pick off the mites. Win-win. You step deeper. The floor is dusted with salt crystals that crunch like glass. In the corner, for perfect depressions, human-shaped, as if a family lay down to nap and never got up. The edges are crusted white. Mara crouches. Body salt, she whispers. Like the ocean exhaled here. Something scrapes overhead, metal on metal. You look up. The ceiling is a lattice of pipes. For a second, you think you see movement. 4 pale shapes crawling between the beams, silent as smoke. Then the headlamp beam jitterbugs, and they're gone. Ellis kills the light. Eyes adjust, he hisses. Darkness swallows you. 7 seconds. 14. 21. Your pupils bloom. The pipes above resolve into shadows. No, into limbs. Long, jointed, folded tight. For torsos dangling like coats on hangers. The father tilts its head, slow, curious. A gull lands on its shoulder, pecks at something wet. You backpedal. Your heel catches a drum. It tips with a hollow gong. The torsos unfold. Legs, too many, unravel like ribbons. The family drops to the floor in perfect sync, landing without sound. They face you. Raincoats drip. Jonah's voice cracks. Okay, that's not CGI. Ellis grabs your sleeve. Slow steps. No sudden moves. You retreat. The family advances, sideways, diagonal, a gliding waltz. Their feet never quite touch the ground. The legs beneath the coats scuttle in tiny, frantic increments. The gull flock explodes from the rafters, wings battering your face. Outside, the fog has lifted just enough to see the tower. The beam catches them mid-stride, for tourists in matching slickers, posing for a photo that will never be taken. Then darkness, and they're closer. You sprint. The cottage door slams behind you. Ellis wedges a chair under the knob. Mara's already packing, sleeping bag half-stuffed, phone flashlight trembling. Jonah's laughing, high-pitched, the kind that precedes screaming. Ellis checks his watch. Moon's peeking. It'll try to herd us, toward the water. Salt craving spikes. You peek through the window. The family stands in the yard, motionless. The beam sweeps. They're gone. Sweep again. Now they're by the SUV, heads tilted like they're listening to the engine tick cool. Mara's voice is small. Guys, there's kids now. You look. For smaller figures, knee-high, in tiny yellow raincoats. They stand in front of the adults, hands clasped. One waves. Jonah whispers, "That's not in the brochure." Ellis's face goes the color of gull wings. It's never shown young before. Not to tourists. The little ones start toward the cottage, same diagonal glide, but faster, playful. Their coats flap open. Beneath, segmented bodies, too many joints, glistening wet. Ellis yanks the map. Nest in the tower. We woke a nursery. The door rattles. The chair scoots an inch. Outside, gulls scream like sirens. The chair under the doorknob shudders again, harder this time, as if the house itself is exhaling. You wedge your shoulder against the wood, but the pressure eases. Whatever's outside has decided to wait. Jonah's already at the back window, prying rusted hinges with a multi-tool. Fire escape's a no-go, he mutters. Whole thing's hanging by a prayer and tetanus. Mara's on her knees, scrolling through Ellis's map by phone light. Tower's the nest, she says. But the service stairs are inside. We'd have to go through them. Ellis is pacing, barefoot now, socks soaked from the floorboards. We don't go through. We go around. There's a maintenance ladder on the seaward side. Climbs to the lantern deck. From there we signal the Coast Guard with the emergency strobe. You glance at the family in the yard. The adult Quadshade has split into two pairs now, flanking the cottage like bookends. The children, no, the juveniles, weave between them, their tiny raincoats flapping like flags. One pauses, presses a palm to the window glass. The print blooms outward, salt crystals spidering across the pane. Real-world fact, salt is hygroscopic. It pulls moisture from the air and can etch glass in hours. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a TikTok sound of a lighthouse keeper's last log, recorded in 1972, where he whispers, "They're learning our names," before the tape cuts to gull static. Experts still argue whether the distortion is wind or mimicry. Ellis shoulders a coil of climbing rope he swears was just in case. We move in pairs. I take point. Jonah, rear guard. You two in the middle. No lights until we're on the ladder. You slip out the side window, one by one, into the narrow alley between cottage and oil shed. The fog here is thinner, tasting of diesel and gull guano. The tower looms above, its beams sweeping slow and indifferent. 7 seconds. You count under your breath. The juveniles notice first. Their heads swivel in perfect unison, like owls made of porcelain. Then the adults turn. No sound, just the soft click of joints unfolding. They glide toward the alley mouth. Ellis hisses, "Go." You sprint. Gravel bites your soles. The maintenance ladder is a rusted spine bolted to the tower's curve, starting 10 feet up. Ellis boosts Mara. She scrambles, boots clanging. You follow, palms burning on cold metal. Jonah's last, cursing as a juvenile darts beneath him, yellow coat brushing his ankle. Halfway up, the beam catches you full in the face. For one frozen second you see the Quadshade below, adults upright, juveniles crouched, forming a perfect square. Then darkness, and the ladder vibrates. Something is climbing. You reach the lantern deck. The lens is gone, but the iron walkway circles the empty housing like a crown of thorns. Wind howls through, carrying gull cries and the wet slap of waves far below. Mara's already clipping the strobe to the railing. Red pulse, red pulse. Ellis peers over. They're not following. Weight distribution. Too many legs on narrow rungs. Jonah laughs, ragged. So we just wait for the helicopter? Then the gulls attack. They pour from every crack in the tower, a red storm of wings and beaks. One slams into your chest, talons raking. Another dives for Mara's eyes. You swing the rope coil like a flail, feathers explode. Real-world fact. Red-billed gulls are unusually aggressive when defending nest sites. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a dashcam clip from Nova Scotia where a flock peels a man's scalp in under 30 seconds. Ellis shouts over the chaos. "They're hurting us." You see it then. The juveniles have reached the deck. They scuttle along the outer railing, upside down, raincoats hanging like flags. Their legs, 8 each, click against metal. One drops onto the walkway, unfolds into a child-sized nightmare, torso splitting to reveal mandibles dripping brine. Mara screams. The strobe tumbles, spins, paints everything bloody. You grab Jonah's arm. Inside, there's a hatch to the service room below. You yank it open, drop through. The others follow. You slam it shut just as a juvenile's claw hooks the edge. Jonah stomps. The claw retracts with a wet snap. The service room is a cylinder of shadow and echo. Spiral stairs descend into blackness. The walls sweat salt. You flick on a headlamp. The beam catches movement. 4 adult silhouettes on the stairs below, ascending slow. Behind them, more juveniles, malformed, some fused at the hip, others with extra limbs dragging like afterthoughts. Ellis whispers, "Parthenogenetic clutch." She split herself to feed them. You back toward the outer wall. The only other exit is a porthole too small for shoulders. trapped between nursery and nest. Jonah's voice cracks. We can't outrun that many. Mara's eyes are wide, reflecting the headlamp like coins. The beam. If we break the rotation mechanism, maybe the light stops sweeping. Confuses them. Ellis nods. Worth a shot. You descend one flight. Careful. The Quadshade pauses, heads tilting. The juveniles mimic a ripple of curiosity. You reach the motor housing, a rusted gearbox the size of a washing machine. Jonah wedges his multi-tool into the gears. You help pry. Metal screams. The beam overhead stutters, then freezes, pinning the staircase in permanent glare. The Quadshade recoils. The juveniles hiss. Steam rises from their carapaces. Salt burns under light. Ellis grins for the first time all night. Photosensitivity. Let's move. You bolt upward, past the frozen light. The creatures shrink from the beam, folding into cracks. You burst onto the lantern deck again. The strobe is gone, but the fixed beam carves a white path across the sea. Far off, you see running lights, a cutter answering the distress. But the juveniles adapt. One by one, they crawl into the shadow beneath the walkway, legs folding tight. The adults follow. They're learning. Ellis looks at you, eyes hollow. We bought minutes, not hours. Below, the ladder clangs. Something heavy is testing the rungs. The ladder sings under new weight, each rung a plucked wire in the wind. You lean over the railing and regret it instantly. The adult Quadshade is climbing upside down, legs hooked like grappling irons, raincoat torsos dangling beneath it like bait. The juveniles scuttle alongside, a living necklace of yellow horror. The fixed beam glares down the tower's spine, but they've found the shadow cone directly beneath the lantern deck, your only blind spot. Ellis is already uncoiling the rope. We rappel to the cottage roof. From there, the SUV. Keys are in my pocket. His voice is calm, the kind of calm that comes after fear burns itself out. Mara's shaking so hard her teeth chatter. The roof's 20 feet down, and the car's surrounded. Better than staying, Jonas says. He's bleeding from a gull slash across his cheek, but his eyes are bright, almost eager. Adrenaline's a hell of a drug. You loop the rope around the stanchion, not at the way your uncle taught you on childhood camping trips you suddenly wish you'd skipped. Ellis tests the hold. The iron groans, but doesn't give. Below, the Quadshade reaches the halfway mark. Its front legs unfold, probing the air like blind antennae. One juvenile loses grip and tumbles, yellow coat flapping like a broken kite. It lands on the rocks with a wet crunch, legs still twitching. The adults don't pause. Real-world fact, certain spider species practice matricide. Spiderlings eat the mother to survive. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a dark web GIF loop of something similar happening in an abandoned aquarium. Tiny silhouettes devouring a larger one while the tank light flickers. Experts still argue whether it's real or CGI rendered in hell. Ellis goes first, sliding down the rope hand over hand, boots skimming brick. Mara follows, whimpering but steady. You push Jonah ahead. I'll anchor. And he doesn't argue. Your turn. The rope burns your palms raw. Halfway down, the stanchion screeches. One bolt shears clean. You drop the last 8 feet, land hard on the cottage roof. Shingles crack under your weight. The SUV sits 30 yards away, a dark beetle in the fog. Between you and it, the Quadshade family, reassembled on the gravel path. The adult has folded back into perfect mimicry. 2 parents, 2 kids, all waving like they're greeting cruise ship tourists. The juveniles form a second rank, smaller, twitchier. Ellis whispers, they're blocking the straight shot. We split. I draw them left, you 3 sprint right, loop around the oil shed. No, Mara hisses. We're not leaving you. It's not a debate. Ellis is already moving, waving his arms, shouting nonsense about gull counts. The family turns as one. The juveniles dart after him, a yellow tide. You don't wait. You, Jonah, and Mara slide off the roof, hit the ground running. Gravel skitters. The oil shed looms, door still ajar. You duck inside, slam it shut, wedge a drum against it. Darkness. The smell of chlorine and rust. Jonah's breathing ragged beside you. Mara's phone light trembles over the walls, for fresh grooves, deeper than before, glistening. Something scrapes the tin roof overhead. You peek through a knothole. Ellis is sprinting toward the cliff edge, Quadshade in pursuit. He's fast, but the creature is faster, legs unfolding mid-stride. It lunges. Jonah grabs your arm. We have to help. Too late. The Quadshade rears, front legs spearing downward. Ellis stumbles. One leg skewers his shoulder, lifts him clear off the ground. He doesn't scream, just a sharp exhale, like surprise. The creature flings him sideways. He arcs over the railing, vanishes into the fog. A second later, splash. Mara makes a sound like a kicked dog. The Quadshade turns back toward the shed. Its juveniles fan out, searching. One presses its face to the knothole you're staring through. The eye is a flat white disc, no pupil, reflecting your phone light like a coin in a well. Jonah yanks you away. Back door. There's a service hatch in the floor, rusted but intact. You pry it open. A ladder descends into the crawl space beneath the shed, tight, damp, smelling of brine and rot. You drop in. The space is barely 3 feet high. You crawl on elbows and knees. Behind, the shed door buckles inward. Yellow coats squeeze through the gap, torso splitting, legs unfolding. They pour into the shed like liquid. The crawl space ends at a storm drain grate. Jonah kicks it. It gives with a clang. You spill out onto the seaward slope, rock slick with spray. The SUV is 20 feet upslope, unguarded now. Mara's limping, twisted ankle from the roof jump, but Jonah hauls her along. You reach the driver's door. Keys. Ellis had them. Spare. Jonah gasps. He flips the visor. A magnetic keybox clatters to the mat. The engine roars to life. Headlights spear the fog. The Quadshade is already halfway down the slope, gliding, legs a blur. Juveniles swarm the hood, palms slapping glass. One cracks the windshield with a mandible. You throw the SUV into reverse, tires spinning gravel. The creature clings, raincoat torsos flapping. Jonah rolls down his window, swings the multi-tool like a hammer. The blade catches a juvenile's leg, black fluid sprays. It shrieks, a sound like tearing canvas, and tumbles under the wheel. You hit the path, spin the wheel, fishtail toward the gate. The adult Quadshade leaps, lands on the roof with a boom that dents metal. Claws rake overhead, peeling paint in strips. Mara's in the back, screaming directions from the map. Left at the fork, Cliff Road, don't stop. You floor it. The gate looms, still chained. You don't slow. The bumper snaps the chain like thread. Sparks. Freedom. In the rear view, the Quadshade slides off the roof, lands in a crouch. It watches you go, raincoats settling back into perfect family formation. The juveniles regroup behind it. The beam sweeps once more, catches them in stark white. Then darkness swallows the lighthouse whole. You don't speak until the cliffs are miles behind. Jonah's hands are shredded from the rope. Mara's ankle is swelling purple. The windshield is a spiderweb of cracks. Your phone buzzes. A single photo from Ellis's number, timestamped 2 minutes ago. The adult Quadshade on the cottage porch, holding his windbreaker like a trophy. The caption, salt for the nest. You delete it. The SUV smells of blood and brine. Dawn is still hours away. The SUV rattles along the cliff road, headlights carving tunnels through the fog that refuses to lift. Your knuckles are white on the wheel. Every bump sends a jolt through your teeth. Jonah's slumped in the passenger seat, pressing his shredded palms to his shirt, leaving dark prints that look like ink blots. Mara's in the back, ankle propped on the headrest, phone dead, whispering numbers like a prayer. 10 miles to the county road. 8-6. The engine coughs. Once. Twice. The dashboard lights flicker, then die. You coast to a stop on the shoulder, the ocean a black void to your left, pines crowding the right. Silence rushes in, thick as the fog. Jonah's voice is hoarse. Battery's fine. Fuel gauge says half. You pop the hood. Salt crusts every surface. Wires glisten like they've been licked. Something has drained the system, siphoned the charge the way it siphoned sodium. Mara's whisper cuts the dark. Headlights. Twin beams crawl up the road behind you. Slow, deliberate. Not a car. The beams sweep side to side, 7-second rhythm, mimicking the lighthouse you just escaped. The Quadshade is driving now. Real-world fact. Certain deep-sea isopods can metabolize electricity from eel shocks. Land cousins might evolve similar tricks near coastal power lines. Creepy internet tidbit. There's a glitchy dashcam upload from Oregon. Headlights that move without a vehicle, pacing a stalled sedan until the driver vanishes. Experts still argue whether it's lens flare or predation. You slam the hood. We walk. Jonah limps. Mara leans on your shoulder. The three of you hobble into the pines, needles muffling your steps. The mimic headlights follow the road, then veer, tires crunching gravel, onto the shoulder where you abandoned the SUV. They stop. Doors open that don't exist. For silhouettes step out, parents in bone-white slickers, kids in yellow. They stand in the beams, heads tilted, listening. You duck lower. The pines smell of sap and low tide. Somewhere, gulls scream overhead, circling. Mara's breath hitches. The nest. It's hurting us back. Jonah shakes his head. No. It's hunting. A juvenile darts between trunks. Too fast, a yellow blur. It pauses 10 feet away, raincoat hood fallen back. The face beneath is unfinished. Eyes too far apart, mouth a wet slit. It whistles, 3 notes, almost a lullaby, then scuttles closer. You run. Branches whip your face. The ground slopes downward, toward the service road that loops the lighthouse from the inland side. If you reach it, maybe a passing truck, maybe dawn, maybe. The adult Quadshade drops from the canopy ahead. It lands in a crouch, raincoats splitting to reveal the full arachnid span. 9 feet of glistening black, legs folding into torsos like origami in reverse. The juveniles fan out, forming a living corral. You skid to a stop. Behind, the mimic headlights creep closer, beams sweeping the trees. No escape. Jonah's voice is steady now, the calm of a man who's already lost everything. We split. One draws the big one, 2 loop around. Mara grabs his sleeve. Not again. But he's already moving, limping into the open, waving his arms. Hey, over here, family photo. The adult pivots. Legs unfold. It charges. Jonah dodges between trunks, leading it deeper into the woods. The juveniles hesitate, then follow their mother. You and Mara sprint the opposite way. The service road is a pale ribbon through the trees. You burst onto it, lungs burning. A pickup idles at the intersection, headlights off, cab empty. Keys in the ignition. Someone must have stopped for a smoke and never came back. You pile in. The engine turns over on the first try. Mara's crying silently, tears cutting clean tracks through the salt on her cheeks. You peel out. In the rear view, Jonah's silhouette, tiny against the pines. The Quadshade towers over him. One leg spears downward. He doesn't scream. The road curves. The lighthouse reappears on the cliff, beams still frozen, pointing accusingly at the sky. You don't look back again. Hours later, minutes, days, you can't tell. County deputies find you at a gas station, barefoot, covered in pine needles and blood that isn't all yours. They tow the pickup. The SUV is gone, dragged into the surf, they say. Ellis's body washes up 3 towns south, lungs full of brine, windbreaker shredded. Jonah never surfaces. They show you the footage from the gas station security cam. 3:17 a.m. A family of 4 in pale raincoats fills up a non-existent car, pays with wet bills, drives off into fog. The clerk swears he served them. You delete the lighthouse photos. Every frame shows only people, smiling, waving, ordinary. You sit in the back of the cruiser, blanket around your shoulders, staring at the deputy's notebook like it's written in a language you used to know. The coffee they hand you tastes of burnt plastic and mercy. Mara's in the ambulance, ankle in a splint, eyes fixed on the ceiling as if the Quadshade might crawl through the roof lights. You haven't spoken since the gas station. Words feel borrowed now, like someone else's coat. Dawn finally claws its way over the pines, thin and gray, the color of old bones. The deputies drive you past the lighthouse road. Gate reinforced with fresh chain, new sign swinging. Danger, unstable structure. No trespassing. Violators prosecuted. The paint still drips. Someone worked fast. They let you keep the pickup keys for evidence. But the tank is empty. The interior scrubbed clean of salt and blood. The only trace is a single red gull feather wedged beneath the brake pedal. You pocket it without thinking. Weeks slide by in a haze of statements and silence. Mara moves south, changes her number, starts posting sunrise photos with captions about healing. Jonah's parents hold a memorial on the cliff. You stand at the back, wind whipping the feather in your fist until it tears free and spirals into the sea. Ellis's channel vanishes overnight. Every mirror, every backup, gone. A single cache thumbnail remains. For silhouettes in the beam, timestamp the night you arrived. The comments are disabled. Real-world fact. The U.S. Coast Guard logs over 200 abandoned vessel reports annually along this coast. Most are chalked up to fog and faulty GPS. Creepy internet tidbit. A now-deleted Reddit thread claimed a drone captured 4 figures walking the Lighthouse gallery at noon, broad daylight. Yet no heat signatures registered on FLIR. Experts still argue whether the footage was doctored or the drone simply filmed absence wearing skin. You go back one last time, alone, on a day so clear the horizon looks sharpened. The gate is locked, but the chain is new and the padlock cheap. Bolt cutters from the hardware store make quick work. You walk the path slowly, boots crunching salt that wasn't there before. The cottage roof has collapsed entirely, shingles scattered like scales. Inside, the tents are gone, the floorboards etched with fresh grooves, for parallel lines. Over and over, a child's obsessive drawing. The tower door hangs open. You climb. Each step echoes, but the iron is warm from the sun, almost welcoming. At the lantern deck you find the strobe light, cracked but still pulsing red every 7 seconds. Someone replaced the battery. The beam itself is dark. The lens never returned. Yet the mechanism turns, grinding softly, searching for a light that isn't there. You lean on the railing. Below, the rocks are clean, tide-polished. No blood, no windbreaker, no Jonah. Only gulls, dozens of them, perched along the gallery, red bills gleaming. They watch you without blinking. One hops closer, drops something at your feet. A Polaroid, edges curled from brine. You pick it up. The photo shows the 4 of you, Jonah mid-laugh, Mara flipping off the camera, Ellis pointing at the lens, you squinting into the flash. Behind you, faint but unmistakable, 4 extra figures stand in perfect mimicry. Same height, same clothes, same smiles. The timestamp reads 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before everything unraveled. You turn the photo over. On the back, in salt-crusted ink, family portrait. See you next tide. The gulls take flight all at once, a red cloud against the sky. The strobe pulses. 7 seconds. 7 seconds. You leave the Polaroid on the railing. The wind claims it before you reach the ground. Word count. 1421 total so far. 8,211. The weeks soften into months, then years, the way tides smooth glass. You marry someone who's never heard of the Quadshade. You move inland, far enough that gulls are only a memory on postcards. Some nights you wake to the phantom sweep of a lighthouse beam across the ceiling, counting heartbeats until it passes. You never tell your spouse why you keep a jar of sea salt on the windowsill, lid cracked open, just in case. Mara sends a wedding invite, hers, not yours. The return address is a coastal town 3